Good morning and welcome to Coffee Ann, the longest-running panel discussion show in American radio. To make a comment or ask a question to the panel, call 401-766-1240 or email coffee@woonsocket.radio.com. And now, let's join the Coffee Ann panel.
Good morning to you. It is Coffee Ann time on ON Radio at 8 in the morning. It's Monday morning. Last Monday in October, by the way. October 28th is the date today. My name's Joe Callahan. Thanks for joining us today.
You're entirely welcome.
This is Dave Richards right over there. Hi there, Dave.
How are you?
And as we've been saying, we'll be joined about 8:30 this morning by Dr. Patrick McGee, Woonsocket School Superintendent, and we'll talk about what's going on in the Woonsocket schools so far for the 2024-2025 school season. All right, we had Dr. McGee on at the beginning of the term, and now it's a month later or so, and we'll get an update on what's going on with him and what's going on with the school. Other things going on, I mentioned to Dave earlier. It's a good day on this Monday, because the Patriots won on Sunday, the Bruins won on Saturday. I think the Celtics won on Friday. So, and the Dodgers are beating the Yankees in the World Series 2-0. So
It's early.
Wow, it is just wow. How great is all this? Yeah, the series moves back to New York, and of course the joke going around is we'll what's his name? Big hitter for the Yankees.
Boone. No, he's the manager. Judge is the one, yeah.
Will Aaron Judge bring his bat? Will he find his bat in New York? Because he certainly didn't have it in L.A.
Probably just got lost in the whole thing, really.
It got lost at LAX?
Yeah, right, yeah.
I can't find it. I don't know where it is.
My baggage is lost.
So he's not having the best of times so far. And they do say that because Shohei Ohtani for the Dodgers had to leave Game 2, he had what they call a slightly dislocated shoulder, Dave. Well, either it's dislocated or it's not. And they say they popped it back in, I guess, and he'll play in Game 3. So if you were worried about that, not to worry. He will keep playing. So things are okay if you're a New England sports fan. They're looking good. I still say the Dodgers in 7 because I can't see the power. The lineup with New York is just too powerful, and
it is that.
And they are coming back to New York, so I can't see them losing in 4 games. I just don't see it. So anyway, so things are good right now here in New England with New England sports. We try to we'll try to hang on to that. Patriots play the Tennessee Titans, who are just as bad as them this coming Sunday. So
they just
maybe
played the Jets,
we'll
who are just as bad as them.
So maybe we got another victory. Maybe we'll have 2 victories in a row. How about that? That would be nice. That game's being played in Tennessee, so I would say that the odds makers will probably make the Patriots 3-point underdogs at least, just because the Tennessee Titans are at home. All right, moving on to other things. Wow, little surprised, but Brown University stepped up and they suspended this chapter, this organization down there at Brown. The Students for Justice in Palestine said it's just there's protesting, Dave, and then there's what you guys are doing.
Right.
And what you guys are doing is not protesting. You're being, gotta use the good words here. You're being idiots is what you're doing. I don't know who they're threatening. I don't know who they're intimidating, and I don't know who they're harassing, but they are. Are they going after Jewish students? I don't know. I don't know who they're going after. Or are they just going after anyone that doesn't believe in their side?
Well,
are you for us? And if you say no, or I don't know, do they start harassing you? I don't know. But it's interfering with normal functions on the campus.
Right.
So it's got to stop.
Right.
And so Brown stops it, at least temporarily. But
it's the difference between informational picketing.
Yeah.
If this were a job action.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have a specified place to be, but you may not hinder others from doing what they're doing. You may not engage other people. You will just be there and demonstrate and put forward your side of the argument and make a spectacle of yourselves to draw attention to your concerns and your grievances.
Well, that's okay.
That's informational picketing.
Right.
And Brown University expects this organization to do the same.
And they're not. I guess.
Right. They are engaging others. They are using foul language. They are berating people and things like that and calling names and nasty, things like that.
When it says they're interfering with normal functions, to me that says they're stopping students from getting to class.
Well, you gotta remember, Joe, that most of the stuff that happens on college campuses doesn't involve the majority of students.
Mm-hmm.
It's a target for paid professionals. It's a place for paid professionals to go because they see colleges and universities as easy pickings for victims. And they come in and they will say that they're students or masquerade with students or engage easily persuaded students to invite them in. And what they are really trying to do is to upset the apple cart and to cause concerns. Now, there was a second story to that didn't get up on the air, and that was the response
from the other
because
side.
It was getting to be way too long for the size of our newscasts. We don't have 20-minute newscasts or 15 even anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So some editing had to be done. The story was told in the first section. The second section is the response of the organization. And say the name of the organization again. I know you have it there in front of you.
Students for Justice in Palestine, or SJP, as they call themselves.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure that's not what they are, but that's okay. That's what they call themselves. And so, but they came up, and then they just started
they're not
slinging.
Happy. Yeah. The coalition.
The most vile and descriptive language against the university. Go ahead and read it.
Well, the coalition of this group says the action is a continuation of the university's efforts to, quote, intimidate anyone and everyone who attempts to hold Brown's governing bodies accountable for their explicit support of genocide, apartheid, and scholasticide, unquote. Wow. Scholasticide, that's a new one.
Yeah.
In a statement, the group says by prohibiting SJP from holding events, the administration at Brown has debilitated the sole organization on the campus dedicated to creating space for collective grief amidst the indiscriminate slaughter of Gazans carried out by the Zionist regime. Unquote.
Yeah, right.
So they're not happy.
This is not Brown University students talking, in my opinion.
You know?
These are paid professionals that are coming in to cause trouble. Now, whether I'm right or wrong is completely academic. Let's examine what they've just said. First of all, they were given a permit to have a demonstration with certain boundaries. They chose to forget about the boundaries and go outside the boundaries and did not go along with their side of the bargain when Brown University allowed them to have their demonstration. And you can see word for word and what they've said, and we've quoted it from the news story. We trust that the reporters on the scene quoted it accurately, but we have to have our faith in something. Mm-hmm. And they're saying that this is just a continuation of them silencing their voice. Well, I'm sorry, that just right there is totally disingenuous because they gave them a voice and then they misbehaved. And they broke their end of the bargain for getting their voice on private property. So now they're claiming, this is just all rhetorical. It's, they're not going to make it with me when I look at it. Believe me, I'm out for the underdog whenever I can see a clear path for it. But these folks are not underdogs. They're paid professionals, in my opinion, and this will never end well.
Okay. They say they're the sole organization. There's got to be others on campus.
Oh, well, they're all full of themselves, aren't they?
That's right. It's only us.
You see, every other organization is playing by the rules. So they're the sole organization not playing by the rules.
So
you're on
we're
private
right
property,
ones.
Boys and girls.
Yeah.
And whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, if you accept the permission to protest on private property, then you must go along with what the provisos are. And if you don't, then you are wrong.
So it's a temporary suspension. Brown University doesn't say for how long this is. And it also doesn't say, well, what happens if they come back somehow and start protesting again? Does Brown have the right
Then they're
to
trespassing.
throw them off?
Clear trespassing.
you're out of here.
But at this point, what has happened is that they asked for permission to protest. Brown says yes, but these are the rules. They broke the rules. Brown examined the situation, looked at all the evidence, and said, okay, we're not giving you permission again. That's where we are today. And instead of coming back and saying, we're sorry we broke the rules, we won't do it again, may we protest again?
No, they're not going to say that.
No contrition.
No.
They go on the attack
Yeah.
to Brown, saying,
It's
you guys
Brown's
are
fault.
filthy, rotten people, and you're trying to suppress our free speech. And no, go out in the public park and have your free speech. You don't do it on our private property.
All right, so
So obviously, everything that they've just said, I'm not getting into the Zionist regime and the rest of that stuff, because
Okay.
that's all rhetoric too,
Yeah.
but whatever. But everything they said about the action by the university to tell them we're not going to give you permission again because you didn't obey the rules, all of that stuff is just disingenuous foolishness.
this was in a protest event that took place, just one, or at least one where they
Was
got
it
out
the
of hand.
16th of October?
October 18th.
18th,
So I'm just saying, it just looks like, they're blocking, standing in front of like campus doors.
right,
You can't get
yeah,
into the
right.
library.
Right.
Things like that. And if you bypass them, they're going to yell at you, whether or not you have a horse in this race or not. You're just, if you're not with us, you're against us, Dave. It's that kind
Yeah,
of thinking.
I know.
And so if you're against us, you're wrong.
Of course. and you should be done away with.
We will let you know that you're wrong. So okay. So moving on to other things, they had a get together in Central Falls over the shooting death of the 14-year-old freshman at Central Falls High School. They brought in emotional sport dogs, counselors to Central Falls High to help those trying to get through this. Really, what's come down to a senseless shooting. School is in session today at Central Falls High School. Have you ever been in a high school when you were going to high school, Dave, where someone has one of the students has passed away?
Oh, yeah.
It's eerie because
Yeah,
it's
two or three times.
It's silent, even when you're passing in between halls. Well, because kids are still grieving at that time. I've gone through that too when I went to high school, where someone had passed away, and it's weird. It's a
Only
weird,
one.
it's a
Only
weird
once was
feeling.
it silent.
Yeah.
The other two times it was maybe a
Business as
little less
normal?
than normal,
Yeah.
but not silent. Once there was one girl who just got in a fit of anger and took her beautiful little Mustang and floored it on a road in town, and when she got to the curve, it went airborne.
Okay.
There was a big long straightaway. Heaven knows the rescue crews. It wasn't far from my house. Rescue crews said, "I've never seen a car so completely destroyed."
How fast was she going? Could they
Heaven
tell?
knows.
Wow. Okay.
All they can say is that she just had an argument with some people, and she got in her car, and she floored it because she had to be in order to go airborne at a curve and go into the trees. It was complete woods there.
Right. Yeah.
And the car was just shredded.
Wow. Mine was my
That one, there was a lot of quiet.
Yeah, mine was a sophomore year, and the girl had an argument with her mother. Mm-hmm. I said, "That's it. I'm staying at a friend's house tonight." And the mom said, "Fine, go." And so she went to the house, and the house caught on fire, and the house burned down.
Oh, my.
And she died in the fire. I said, "I don't know how the mom ever gets over that."
Well, nothing the mom did.
I know, but she said, "Yeah, fine, yeah, leave the house," kind of thing.
Well, right.
She's gonna feel guilty.
Time out.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So wow, it's just whew.
You're
It was-
going to some place which we deem as safe.
Yeah, but
so
it was
what,
silent.
the mom's responsibility's done there, but I know what you mean.
It was silent.
It's always
that
gonna-
next day at school.
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
that's bad.
So the one they arrested in Central Falls, they don't say he is or is not a student at Central Falls. He's 18, could be a student, could not be, but doesn't say. Just say they have arrested an 18-year-old in connection with the shooting, and he's facing charges that include manslaughter. Doesn't say anything else that he may be charged with. So we'll hear more on that as the days go along. All right, we're going to take our first break here on the Coffee and program. More coming up, and if you have any comments or questions, feel free to call them in at 766-1240. We'll be back with more of the Coffee and program.
You know, when you're paying the right price for protection, you just know it. It's that warm, fuzzy, totally secure feeling, knowing that you're not only getting great coverage, but you're also not paying too much for it. And when it comes to your insurance, there's no one better at getting the right price for your protection than Allstate agents Kara and Celeste Benjamin, because they know when it comes to your bank account, every penny counts towards something bigger, something better. Like a nicer car, that home update you've been dreaming of, or a phone that's fresh out of the box. Those little or big things that we work so hard for. And Kara and Celeste Benjamin want to help you work a little less by getting you the coverage you need and the savings you deserve when you switch to Allstate. Contact Kara and Celeste Benjamin at the Benjamin Agency. One agency, two locations in North Smithfield and Bellingham. 765-5000 for a free quote today. Allstate, you're in good hands. And you're in good hands with Kara and Celeste Benjamin at the Benjamin Agency. Savings vary based on the average annual savings reported by new auto customers surveyed in 2019 who switched to Allstate.
The Coffee and Panel is enjoying coffee from Down East Coffee Roasters. All their coffee is roasted right here in Rhode Island. Down East Coffee Roasters is available at all Little General stores.
ON, AM, and FM.
It's Coffee and here on ON Radio. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm Joe Callahan here with Dave Richards. We'll be joined by Dr. Patrick McGee a little later on in the program. Talk about what's going on in the Woonsocket school system. We've been getting the special weather statements from the National Weather Service basically all last week and right into today about the high elevation of brush fires due to the lack of rain we've had over the last couple of weeks. So just something to be very, very aware of. And, you know, up in Massachusetts, they've been seeing some brush fires. And, you know, they get a lot of crowds at Salem, Massachusetts this time of year, but they don't need it for people starting brush fires up that way. And I saw the pictures on the news, Dave, and, you know, it was the entire tree was on fire before it had fallen over. I'm like, ugh. That's not good when the whole tree is on fire. So they're dealing with this situation. Weston, Massachusetts, Middleton, Mass, Beverly, Mass, Millbury, Mass, all had red flag warnings. Died. Yeah, she was at a camp. Huh? I was right. She was on the Blackstone River Bikeway off of Route 146, going up towards Worcester. Emergency crews rushed to the location, put out the fire, and the unidentified woman was pronounced dead at the scene. The cause of that fire remains under investigation. And you just think that it was a small brush fire. Could that have been started either by a campfire or careless discarding of smoking materials?
Don't know.
It doesn't say yet. So
here's the actual message from the National Weather Service issued at 3:30 this morning. Elevated fire weather concerns for southern New England today. The combination of recent dry weather and very dry ground will continue to make conditions favorable for wildfire development today. Minimum relative humidity values are expected to range between 25% and 45% today. Now, that's what you get during the wintertime. Mm-hmm. And along with light northerly winds, use caution when handling and disposing of ignition sources. Outdoor burning is not recommended anywhere in the area.
You know, I'm sure if you even call your local fire department and say, "Can I have a small little fire in the backyard?" I think they're going to say no.
Yeah.
No, even if you do have a permit to do it, you always got to check with the fire department, and they will tell you whether or not conditions are safe. And they're probably going to say, "I don't think so."
Well, you gotta remember, it's not just the fire that you have there that you can control. It's the little sparks that go aloft and then land on something.
Yeah, and then poof. And I know in Mass, I don't know in Rhode Island, Dave, but Massachusetts has a burning season, and they start it in January, and goes to about the beginning of spring, and that's the only time you're really supposed to have open fires. But you're still supposed to get a permit, and you're still supposed to check with either the fire or the police, either one, to see if it's okay to burn on that particular day. I don't know if Rhode Island has it what we call a burn season.
I don't think they announce it that way. I never hear them announce it that way.
Okay, all right. Just be careful with the whole fire stuff. So they've upped the ante, Dave. The reward has been doubled for the up in Franklin, Massachusetts,
Yeah,
just
the one
nearby.
who started the fire in the
at
sacristy at St. Mary's.
St. Mary's Church, and now it's up to $10,000. For anyone with information about who might have started this fire, because it has been deemed that it is arson that started this fire at the Catholic Church in Franklin. Anybody with information is asked to call 1-800-682-9229. This is the Arson Watch Reward Program. And masses had to be canceled this past weekend. The church is just too heavily damaged, mostly with smoke. And smoke does a lot of, smoke and water do a lot of damage. Not only the fire does damage, but smoke and water do a lot of damage
gosh,
too.
yeah. They get
So-
it gets into everything.
Yeah.
Clogs up vents, affects air conditioning machines and air handlers, which is just, the fans and things like that, plus all the cushions and draperies and things like that.
Yeah. So they're saying the church will be closed for several weeks. So that could go 3 months, 4 months because of the smoke damage. Usually when stuff like this happens, other churches, they're usually very good at this. They step up and say, come have your services at our church. You won't have the same kind of schedule that you would normally have at the church in Franklin, but you can at least have something, and that can only help. All right, no surprise, Dave. I heard you read the story this morning when you had the story last week, and whenever we want the tuition to go up at Rhode Island College, URI, CCRI. Whenever they say we want it to go up, it always seems to get approved right across the board. This time, it doesn't include URI. It's just Rhode Island College and the Community College of Rhode Island. The Council on Post-Secondary Education approved the increase. I don't know who asks for the increase. Is it just the schools themselves, presidents of the college? Say we need an increase in tuition.
Probably the person who makes out the checks for the bills.
Yeah.
We need
okay.
more money.
And but what surprised me most is that CCRI, they wanted a higher rate increase than Rhode Island College.
Yeah.
And they got the okay. Tuition hike at CCRI is going to be 5.7% for the in-state kids, 5.8% for out-of-state. And at Rick, it's a 3.6% increase for in-state and 3.7% for out-of-state residents. So there you go. Rhode Island College used to have a deal. They don't have it anymore. They had it when I went to school. If you put a compass, the compass you used to get in elementary school with the pencil, and you put it right on on a map of where Rhode Island College is down at the Providence and North Providence, and
Right.
then you went out. I thought it was 30 miles or 50 miles, and then drew a circle. Okay. Everything inside the circle was considered in-state.
Is that so?
Yes.
That doesn't work in Rhode Island.
Well, I know. Well, now we're getting Massachusetts and Connecticut, and so it was a way to draw in more students, which is why my Kevin.
Just like opening up the borders is
Yeah.
a way of drawing in
It's
more
like-
voters. Yeah.
Kevin met his future wife because she lived in Attleboro, but she was able to get in to go to Rhode Island College on an in-state tuition.
It was the Friends and Family program,
Basically,
not really
yeah.
the residential program.
Yeah, so she came in and they met, and the rest is history.
The kernel
They
of that
don't-
whole thing
but they
was to
don't-
give people who are already supporting the university with their tax dollars a break on the price.
Yeah, but
Mantleborough's not doing that.
well, they've done away with it.
I
'Cause,
see.
Last year, when my daughter was looking at schools, I asked about it. I said there used to be this program, and the person I talked to in financial aid says, yes, you're right. We did used to have it, and we don't have it anymore.
Right. Okay.
They had something else that they thought was just as good, and I wish I could remember the parameters of it, but it didn't work out well for me.
Okay.
So it's like, okay. So if my daughter had decided to go, because Mansfield's right on the line of that 50-mile
Oh, yeah.
thing, or just inside it, but she would have been outside, and she would have been considered an out-of-state student, and prices would have been a lot higher
Yeah.
than what we're paying now. She goes as an in-state student where she's going now. So, all right. But just a reminder for you high school seniors, tuition's going up at Rick and CCRI next fall. So the bus tunnel's going to finally reopen, Dave.
That's
I
nice.
forgot it had been closed. It's been closed for so long.
That's nice.
You see that on the east side of Providence, the east side bus tunnel. It's going to reopen on Wednesday. It's a 110-year-old tunnel that links the east side and downtown Providence. It's been closed since late March. Do you know what the detour has been for the buses to go around?
Well,
I
it's
don't
been
know.
extensive. That's
I'm
why
sure
they built it
has
in the
been.
first place.
Yeah. All and up and down those hills on the
Yeah.
east side. Jeez.
How much fun is that?
Worse in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
The Rhode Island Public Transit Authority said all the bus routes that have been detoured during the closure will resume using the tunnel starting on Wednesday. I'm sure the bus drivers will be there'll be much rejoicing. Hooray! And they'll be happy that the tunnel is, I guess, now safe since they did all this restoration work.
Right.
We don't have to worry about it falling down, so that part's good. So the Rhode Island Board of Elections remind you, if you're doing voting by mail, you got to get the mail-in ballots by 8 on
It's
election
your
night.
responsibility. If it
Yeah.
doesn't arrive by 8 o'clock, they don't want to hear any whining.
By 8 p.m. on November 5th.
Right.
Ballots that are being mailed should be sent at least 7 days before Election Day.
That would be
That would be
tomorrow
tomorrow, right? Because
or today.
things get slowed down at the post office. if
We've heard
they get swamped.
We have heard of some pretty hefty delays during the U.S. Postal Service deliveries. Yeah.
Yes. But you also have your choice. You can turn in your ballot at a secure drop box at your polling location.
That's what I'd do.
Maybe that's a better idea. The board says voters who use the mail or drop box to cast their ballots can track the status of their submitted ballots through ballot tracks.
Yeah.
Officials say the tool tracks ballot envelopes, not votes, ensuring that votes remain confidential through the ballot tracking process. I'm sure this is done via the internet. You get
Oh
the
yeah,
little
it's
number.
it's a
and then
GPS tracking device that's in the envelope or
follow
something
where it
like that.
goes.
Well, yeah, you can buy those. Apple's got those little things you can attach them to anything. Little
Yep.
little discs. Forget what they call them.
It's just-
Pods.
It's just
no.
like when you, I don't know, but it's just like if you order something online, you get the little notice. Okay, it's on.
Well,
either
that's
the
tracking
FedEx truck,
number,
the
yeah.
tracking number, so you can track where
And they
the
track
where the
the
truck
truck.
is, and there it is in, Trenton, New Jersey. Okay, it'll be here in a couple of days. Well, I guess so, and then you can just follow wherever it ends up. Dave, is this the first time that the State House is becoming basically a haunted house, a
Well,
spooky State House? I don't remember them doing this.
I've always
before.
found the place a little on the spooky side myself.
Well,
Every
it's 'cause
time
it's so
I
old.
visit, it's because it's so really old and dark. Yeah, a lot of ghosts walking up and down those corridors. If you believe in that sort of thing, is just from the looks of it all. They do their best to make it cheerful, but what are you gonna do?
But they want trick or treaters to stop by the State House.
They do,
I don't remember
and
this.
they realize that the State House is actually in a neighborhood. It's actually between two neighborhoods,
Yeah.
and people live in those neighborhoods. Our own Dave
Smithville
Balfour
area.
grew up in the Smithfield neighborhood, just to the west of the State House. And so anyway, I guess they just want to open their doors, make it more the people's house, and say, let's engage in this cultural holiday and ask everybody in for some fun. Let's do this. We can get the people in the State House to do it. So we're good with that. Do I remember them doing this before? No, they may have done it and not publicized
Maybe.
it, so I wouldn't have found out about it. But I
they're not-
don't recall it happening before.
But they're not doing it on Thursday, which is Halloween.
No.
They don't want to
no.
interfere, I guess, with all the
Right.
Halloween activities.
That's right.
So they're doing it Tuesday night for an hour and a half, 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m.
The cultural shift now is to be doing all of Halloween
It's a
on dates
week-long
other
event.
than
Halloween
that date.
Yeah, it's like all the trunk or treat events.
Yeah.
Took place this
Oh,
past
yes,
weekend.
we had some. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but costumes are encouraged, but not necessary. Admission is free. That's good. But they also are asking people to bring a non-perishable food item, so that can be donated to the Rhode Island Community Food Bank. So it's all
Right.
a nice thing, and it's all. They'll have decorations at the State House and treats. And so I guess you go from office to office: Governor's office, Secretary of State,
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant Governor, and the Senate and the House. Be down there passing out.
Now you want to talk
little
about
treats.
something spooky on October 31st.
I do.
And this is true, by the way, but just because it might excite your imagination or entertain you in some way, I have a dear friend who lost his mother the other night, and they are sitting Shiva, because they're Jewish, they are sitting Shiva on Halloween evening,
Wow. Okay.
including a minyan service at 7 o'clock after dark and all the rest of that. So, yeah.
Great. All right, we got to take a break here in the Coffee and program. And it's time to bring you the weather forecast, which is being brought to you by Progressive Insurance.
Mostly sunny skies today with a high near 52 degrees and a breeze from the north. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, overnight low of 28 degrees. Tuesday's weather mostly cloudy with a high near 58. Wednesday, partly sunny and 72. Thursday, mostly sunny and 77. Friday, partly sunny and a high near 69. Saturday, sunshine and 55. And next Sunday, mostly sunny with a high near 60.
Outside the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio on the corner of Park Ave and Kennedy Street, under, looks like mostly cloudy skies at the moment, 43 degrees. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com.
When you visit the Menard Lockachar Funeral Home's website, you'll find a wealth of important information, including frequently asked questions about the various options of pre-planning funeral etiquette, visitation, personal help to help the family, and many others. Remember, pre-planning is safe and helpful to family members who may be overwhelmed with details and responsibilities. It also assures that the deceased's final wishes are met. Their website will also feature several photos of their two beautiful and classic funeral homes at 127 Carrington Avenue, Woonsocket, and 71 Central Street, Manville. You'll be treated with courtesy and understanding. Their main phone number is 762-1825. Menard Lockachar Funeral Homes.
Woonsocket City Councilor Dan Gendron has served Woonsocket well for years. When Woonsocket needed to replace an antiquated water plant for clean, safe drinking water, Dan did his part to see our new water treatment plant built and become the envy of the state. As council president, Dan saw his duty and did it, working as our mayor when the office was vacant and refusing to take the salary. Later, seeing a vacancy on the council, Dan won the special election to fill the vacant council seat. Now, with 5 of the 7 city councilors not running for re-election, Dan knows Woonsocket will need someone of his experience, dedication, and love of his city to stay on the city council. Whenever he's seen the need, Dan Gendron has stepped up and done what Woonsocket needed to have done. Now it's your turn. Vote for Dan Gendron for City Council.
Paid for by friends of Daniel M. Gendron.
Hi, this is Kevin, host of Kevin's Sports Show, every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 on WOON 99.5 FM, 1240 AM, and WoonsocketRadio.com. Follow all your New England teams and your local athletes. Call in at 766-1240 to Kevin's Sports Show every Saturday morning.
It's Coffee and here on ON AM and FM. Thanks for joining us. This is Joe Callahan here with
You're
Dave
entirely
Richards.
welcome.
And we're being joined at the Coffee and Table by Dr. Patrick McGee, Woonsocket School Superintendent. Thanks for joining us, Dr. McGee.
My pleasure, Joe. Good to see you.
You as
Dave,
well.
good to see you.
I'm so glad you could take a little bit of time out to come and see us in person. I know you've got enough things to worry about.
That's okay. No, I always find time, try to
Yeah,
find time
right.
to come.
So the big question right off the bat is, what are you going to do with all those socks? Landmark Medical Center donated
that's a good
10,000
problem.
Generosity was
That's
quite
a good problem
yeah.
to have.
I guess
yeah.
so.
I very, very grateful to Landmark. They donated over 500 pairs of socks.
Okay.
And
I was a little high in my estimation there.
it was just they're a great partner. They've been a great partner with the school department for many, many years, and they're demonstrating their commitment to the community and to our kids and their families.
So is there a need? This is unfortunate that if there's a need at the schools that kids are coming to school with not wearing socks.
There is, and we're really lucky here in Woonsocket because we have a community that really cares about beyond Landmark. We have many organizations, and I know I'm going to leave some out, but we have the Elks Club, we have the Rotary Club. We have CCA, we have CCF.
Yeah. There are various religious organizations and churches that try
Church,
as well. Yeah.
they that donate clothes. They donate, coats. They donate just the items that many of us take for granted, but unfortunately many of our students and their families struggle with. It's really sad when you see the numbers of students who come to school in the winter months without coats. And
Because the stuff's expensive.
it is. It's expensive, and
You got to worry about rent and electric.
Absolutely.
And food.
Yeah.
For a growing family.
Yeah,
Even
no.
if you don't have a big family. I grew up in a big family. I was the oldest. But when somebody said socks, I said, I sensed in the room that socks, my goodness. But I remember that rang true for me. I'll tell you a little something about me. I was the oldest of 6, and I learned to sew because we could not keep all the kids in clothes and socks. And I had to sew the socks, but I had to learn how to sew the socks so it wasn't a big bunch and you couldn't walk in them. You know,
Right.
you know how when you sew, if you don't do it really well, there's a big bunch there and it's very uncomfortable. So I learned how to sew.
Yeah,
I
it's
just had to, yeah.
life skill, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Well, it all turned out for a positive in
Yeah.
the end. But at the time, we just, oldest of 6 kids, you can't just go out and buy socks anytime you want.
No, but we are very grateful for Landmark.
I was pretty hard on clothes, too.
And yeah, it's nice to see a community come together for its citizens and for its children. And unfortunately, we have many children and many families that have needs that that go beyond things that we might consider ourselves.
But what about the learning now? It took a hit during the pandemic and when the kids weren't coming to the buildings and they weren't doing the congregate things, which are so important for human beings to do, and they and there was the usual. Kids paid attention in varying ways to the screens, even when they were logged in. You had all that to try to swim through. But now, what about scores? Are they doing okay?
Yeah.
Are they improving still since the pandemic? Because I know they took an awful hit then.
Yeah. So nationally, scores are going down. Our neighbor. Massachusetts, their scores.
Well, they want to get rid of the whole MCAS.
They do, and their scores have gone down.
And we used to compare ourselves to them all the time because they were higher than we were.
have, and really we still do.
Yeah.
Because while they've gone down, they're still higher than Rhode Island scores. But Woonsocket is reflective of the region and of the nation. Our scores in Rhode Island have gone down slightly, and here in Woonsocket they've gone down slightly as well. Some in some schools they've gone up slightly. Others have gone down. Our high school.
The big problem is attendance too.
Well,
Getting
and that's that's very interesting that you say that. You're absolutely right. So, when you look at test scores, you can't say it's just this one issue.
No.
It's a multitude of issues, and we're not going to solve the low test score problem with just one. With just one solution. I think there are a variety of things, and one of those things is attendance. And at a meeting about 3 or so weeks ago, when the scores, just before the scores came out, they were still embargoed, and it was a meeting at the Department of Education with the commissioner and other superintendents from other school districts. Most of us were there. And the one thing that RIDE is going to provide school districts soon is a look at students who are chronically absent and how they performed versus students who are not chronically absent and how they performed on the RICAS, on the SAT, and on the PSAT. And I think what we're going to find statewide, and I think certainly here in Woonsocket, is that students who are chronically absent, and in Woonsocket, that's depending on the school, it's upwards to about 40%, and in some cases, it's slightly
That's
higher
a higher
than
number
that.
than I was hoping for.
I'm sure I'm positive that we're going to find that students who do not attend school regularly, who are chronically absent, and that's 18 or more days throughout the school year, so that's 2 days a month, their scores are going to be much lower than students who come to school and are not chronically absent and come to school regularly. So I'm anxiously awaiting that data from RIDE, because when we get that data from RIDE, we're going to be sharing that obviously with the school committee and with the community at
When
large.
do you expect to get that?
I don't know. I know that was about 3 weeks ago, and they said they were in the process of putting it
Department
together.
of Education moves at the speed of government.
Does, yeah, it even slower sometimes. But that has been something that we've talked about for many years in Woonsocket. We haven't had the ability to extract that data, but RIDE apparently does have the ability to extract that data. So I'm really looking forward to seeing who comes to school regularly versus who does not come to school regularly. And I think that we're going to find that those who do come to school regularly perform better.
Well, now, speaking to your comment that there's not just one simple answer for all of this, it's a whole circuit of problems, and they all affect each other in one way or another, which makes it difficult to pinpoint a solution, obviously. But now we have this problem, and we're working toward trying to get a solution to improve the overall thing, and attendance is big, so we're going to try to throw a lot of effort into that. But what about the end game, having productive members of society, which is what you and all your people down at the Department of Education here in Woonsocket and also statewide, that's the end game.
Right.
Is getting people, young people through and preparing them to be productive members of society. That's really all you're looking for. Everything else is a distraction.
It is. And, look, test scores are important. It's a snapshot, right?
They were focused on, once the second Mr. Bush came in and was president, of course, his wife Laura was a school teacher in a previous life before First Lady, and so that got heightened scrutiny from the White House. But I don't remember good education departments being mandated to, the heck with daily learning, make the test scores come up. And
Right.
that was the negative aspect of the laudable goal of trying to get everyone to learn more.
Right.
But we're dealing with the negative aspects of it now, and it's getting in the way of the day-to-day teaching, isn't it?
It is in many ways. With No Child Left Behind, obviously, that was about the beginning of the
That was what Mr. Bush
standards-based
called it,
movement,
No
right?
Child Left Behind.
And so there was an emphasis that was placed on accountability, and that's just increased over the years, so that when the test scores come out, they make the headlines. The test scores don't give you, it gives you a snapshot of what kids know and can do at a certain point in time. What that doesn't show you are all of the layers to that onion that make up the the situation around the test scores. And it doesn't take into account the fact that many of our children enter school, enter preschool, enter kindergarten, lacking basic skills that students in more suburban districts have. It doesn't take into consideration the high level of poverty in Woonsocket. And it might sound like I'm making excuses, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just merely stating what our reality is here in Woonsocket. It doesn't mean we don't continue to work hard. It doesn't mean that we don't look within and say, what are things that we can do better within the school department? Because there are things that we can do better within the school department. But it's a multifaceted problem. And just saying, well, just raise test scores. We're working on that. We've been working on that. As I said, it's multifaceted. Students have to be present regularly to learn, right? If they're not going to learn. We also have to make sure that our curricula is, we call it, RIDE calls it green lit, which means it checks the boxes in terms of the standards and the level of rigor that they're expecting. So there's the curriculum, there's the instruction. We have to make sure that in Woonsocket we are creating, and as simple as it might sound, we're creating lessons that are engaging so that kids want to come to school, so that they want to learn. You know, if we're not creating lessons that are engaging, if we're putting kids to sleep, well, then there isn't the incentive, and I hate to say that because, you know, when we went to school, I didn't need an incentive to come to school. I came to school because I wanted to learn, and it was important, and it was something that was embedded in, you know, in my family. But you need to provide a reason for kids to come to school. Engagement. And that's just the academic piece. We have the social emotional piece where we have many students, as I said, who come from, you know, families that are experiencing poverty. We have many homeless students in our district. So there are a lot of challenges that our students and our families face beyond just the academic piece.
But what I see now when I listen to the school committee meetings, you're talking about vacancies, jobs that are there without people to do them, without qualified people to do them. I have to say the qualified part because I'm sure anybody would like a job, but they've got to be qualified in order for you to be able to put them to work. Classroom teachers have had one hand tied behind their back and sometimes two hands tied behind them back in the creativity that they would probably like to bring to engage students as well. And it's all because of, you know, it seems that we never ever operate with fewer rules than the group before us. There's always more rules being put on, and those two are distractions to the end result. I don't know if you want to pass a comment on that.
No, you're
I mean,
right.
when you were a classroom teacher, you could afford to be a little different and engage the students in the way that that particular class wanted to be engaged and spin things so that you could get the result you were looking for without violating a rule.
Yeah, you know, when you look at curriculum, I mean, I think where what you're speaking about is, so we have curricula, right? And depending on the curriculum, you know, there are, so like for just, I'll give just you and the listeners, you know, an example. You know, we have a phonics curriculum, Foundations, and it's very scripted. But within that script, we want to provide the teachers with some latitude so that they can, if they need to, you know, tweak some things based off of where their students are. And I'm not saying that they're completely going rogue, you know, with the curriculum, but they do have that ability.
More of an adaptation.
Yeah, sometimes they don't feel as though they have that ability, you know, but that's where, you know, working with our staff and assuring them, you know, yes, you do have some latitude. However, you know, the overall, you know, the fidelity of the curriculum needs to be maintained, but there is certainly some opportunities for teachers to, you know, to make some
As Ringo
modifications.
Starr said, it just ain't easy sometimes.
It is. It's not. It isn't.
And I'm sorry, we got to stop there. Joe's been giving me the break signal, and I ran roughshod right over it, so we have to stop at this point. Joe?
All right, more Coffee Hands coming your way. Comments and questions can be called in at 401-766-1240.
As drivers, we encounter motorcycles on the road every day, and motorcycle safety is a two-way street. So give motorcycles extra space when stopping and starting. Check your mirrors and blind spots. Share the road, but never try and share a lane. Every rider could be a father, a son or a brother, a mother, a daughter or a sister, or the whole world to someone very special. Brought to you by the Rhode Island Police Chiefs Association and the Rhode Island Broadcasters Association.
Hey, it's ON Radio's Cruisin' Bruce Palmer, and I'd love to have you join me every Saturday for the Saturday Block Party. We start at 4 o'clock when I open up the ON Music Vault. for you to pick whatever you want to hear or send to somebody special. Yes, the good old radio request days are back. Join me for the Saturday Block Party, Saturdays from 4 until 7 on ON Radio and streaming online at WoonsocketRadio.com.
You can depend on us for public service. ON Radio.
It's Coffee and on ON AM and FM. Thanks for joining us. This is Joe Callahan here with Dave Richards. We're with Dr. Patrick McGee, Woonsocket School Superintendent. And we had you here at the beginning of the school system. So now it's season, sorry. And we're roughly 2 months into it. And so have things straightened out, gotten better? Are things good with the busing situation? Are we at the...
Look, radio listeners, you just should have seen the superintendent's face.
Okay, well,
So go.
Okay, geez, where do I begin, and more importantly, where do I stop?
Yeah, right.
So it has been to say it's been a challenge is the understatement of the century.
All right.
We are continuing to work with Durham because we're going to be adding some more buses. We're hopeful that if we add a few more buses, that will help with the
that's what Durham
problem.
says.
That's what Durham says.
Yeah, we can do better with more buses.
Exactly.
And each one has a cost.
You know, I can tell you that Al Notariani, who is our chief operating officer, who oversees transportation in the district, has been on them.
We hear it in the live broadcast of the
Yes.
school committee meetings.
Has been
Some
on them.
frank discussions have been broadcast.
There have been. I mean, we're frustrated.
Yeah,
we are
sure.
and that's an understatement that we're frustrated. You know, it isn't like there are a ton of bus companies, you know, banging on the door out there. You know, when
really
we went out to bid about a year and a half ago, we had two.
Right.
We had Durham and we had First Student, and you know, we elected to continue our relationship with Durham. But it has been it's been very frustrating, whether it's, you know, bus routes being changed and us not being notified. You know, in the beginning of the year, and I've said this publicly, we received the bus lists literally the night before the first day of school.
Yeah, we announced that.
There were a group of us at central office who were literally up until 9:30 the night before school, we were making calls to families to let them know where
Because they didn't know where the kids were going,
the
what
bus stop
was
was going to be. So, you know, and those types of things are just not acceptable, and we've made that very clear to Durham. We're meeting with them regularly. We're going to be meeting with them biweekly, and you know, we're doing everything we can so that situation is improved. There have been some you know, bus routes that have improved, but overall, you know, we're not satisfied, but we're going to continue to work with them to try to improve the busing.
How many
across the
buses
district.
we're using now?
So we are using 18 buses.
Right.
So we went to them and said, look, you know, because some medically fragile buses for our schools. So we're looking to add
At least one more. There would be three for the medically fragile.
Possibly two more buses. You know, serving, you know, medically fragile, specifically at Globe Park.
Right. So these aren't the big yellow ones.
Well, they actually are.
Oh, they are?
Some of them are the larger buses.
You have that many?
We do.
Oh,
yes,
I didn't know there was that many in the student population needed that service.
We do.
I see.
So we're hopeful that will improve, but
what do they do for medically fragile if it's that big a bus? They put on 2 monitors or something?
Yeah, there are monitors on there. You know, they have locations in there that can support, you know, students in wheelchairs.
Right.
And in some cases we have a nurse that rides the bus with those students
Makes
as well.
sense. Okay.
So yeah.
Now, you find that attendance is pretty good on the medically fragile ones, and it's really the general population is where you have the attendance lagging.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean,
those
medically
folks are serious about an education. They want to
They-
get out of the house.
They
want
are,
to get into
and
school.
and our some of our medically fragile students, obviously, their conditions are such where they have lower immune systems than
Yeah.
than their peers. So they certainly we certainly take that into account. But for the most part, yeah, they come to school and it's we want all of our students to obviously to do that.
I mentioned to you before we went on the air, Dr. McGee, that I wanted to ask you to comment on Learn 365. I was with the governor last week, and he made sure that we knew all about it and how much behind it he is. What's it look like from the standpoint of the Woonsocket Education Department, this plan?
Yeah. So we actually met. This was last year because initially the initial 365 funding was about $40,000, and we were not a part of that. The school department was not a part of that. With Mayor Beauchamp, he has brought us in. He brought us in about a year ago with our community partners as well, CCF, CCA, Boys and Girls Club, the YW, the YM, and others that I might be leaving out unintentionally. So we were able to come together to say, okay, how can we use this money? We had made some decisions that we were going to use that the first round of funds to support our MLL students, multilingual learners.
There you go. Okay.
So and now with this second round of money, we're still we've been working with our community partners about how we can best service our students here across the district. We're going to certainly look at attendance because that, as we talked about earlier in the program, is a major issue.
But it all comes down to the fact that 6 hours of instructional learning each day just isn't enough to get students to the level they have to be in this century to function in society after 12 grade school years, right?
Yeah,
and then
it's not.
What do you see in, because that's secondary education.
Yeah.
Actually, I always thought it was really primary education because it was secondary to go to college when I was growing up. But that's not the way that the education business looks at it.
Yeah.
So now the colleges and universities are whining that these kids can't do this, they can't do that they used to be able to do. We have to address that, or we can't hit the benchmarks we're trying to hit. The whole thing gets messed up like dominoes down the string, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's there's just not enough time in the day, and especially when students aren't attending school regularly, it puts them at a disadvantage, and it also puts their peers in the classroom at a disadvantage because, when you look at a student who's not attending school regularly, when they do attend school, our teachers work very hard, and they work hard to try to fill those gaps, but it's very challenging when you have students who are attending school regularly, who are moving along the continuum, and then you have those students who are not there regularly, and the teachers trying to catch them up, all the while trying to maintain the progress with the students that are there regularly. It's to say it's a balancing act is an understatement.
Well, I guess we're running out of time, so I'd like to just finish up with this. What we've been listening to for the last few minutes, talking with you about these various subjects, it seems like you're shoveling against the tide. I don't know if you wanted to comment on that. Well, it's an oversimplification, of course it is, but we're talking about some of the challenges that you deal with.
Yeah.
And is there an end to it? Is there what do you, are you optimistic or pessimistic, as Larry King used to say?
So I'm optimistic. I think that there are things we have control over. There are. And I say this to administrators and I say this to teachers. Oftentimes, it's easy to say, well, they're not doing their part, right? Okay, so maybe they're not. We try to, and families and parents and all right, so if they're not as supportive as we would like them to be, all right, so it doesn't mean we stop trying to reach out to them. It doesn't mean we stop trying to get them to come to school regularly. But what do we have control over, right? Because there are things that we have control over. We have control over what happens when kids come to us and they're in our classrooms. We have control over, how we teach. We have control over, what we teach with respect to the curriculum. So let's look at what we can control, and let's try to improve on that. But let's still try to have an impact and make attempts to, have a positive impact on the things that which we may not have control over.
Thanks for putting a little bit of brightness on the end of that sad tale.
You're welcome.
And we're glad you're there leading the charge.
That's right. That'll do it for the Coffee and program for today. We've run out of time, and we could keep going on and on with Dr. McGee. It would be great, but we do got to move along. So, Dr. McGee, thanks for coming in today.
You're welcome, Joe. My pleasure. Thank you.
Dave, thanks for sticking around as well.
Oh, what a great show today was.
All right.
Catch it on the replay if you missed any of it.
My name is Joe Callahan. Stay tuned. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for Leslie Page at the Libraries next, followed by Food First with Karen Zangari. And don't forget Tiki Bar tonight at 6 here on ON Radio.
Broadcasting live and local daily from the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Avenue and Kennedy Street. This is WOON Woonsocket Radio. And now, the news.
Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee was among the state leaders who attended a groundbreaking ceremony on Friday down in West Greenwich for construction, which will be getting underway shortly, for the new Southern Public Safety Complex in West Greenwich they've been talking about for some time down there. Well, it's going to be a 35,000 square foot complex that will replace the state police barracks in both Wickford and Hope Valley. Officials say around 80 troopers will be stationed at the new facility, which is scheduled to be completed in June of 2026. Tuition at Rhode Island College and the Community College of Rhode Island is going up next fall. Big surprise. The Council on Post-Secondary Education approved the increases last week. At Rick,